Well, I'm amazed that I ended up being a historian and a professor. Never would have guessed that growing up in East Tennessee. I had friends who were smart, but they all wanted to be engineers and doctors and things, whereas I was kind of dreamy, reading these books and thinking about writing, wanting to be a journalist or something. And I get to college, University of Tennessee, and I'm in Honors Western Civ class, and I meet this guy who is 38 years old, has this great thing he does with his hair, Richard Marius, and I realize this is who I want to be. I don't actually remember what he taught me about Thomas Aquinas or whatever else we studied, but I remember thinking, this guy is modeling a life. Look at the passion that he's bringing into this class at 8 o'clock in the morning with a bunch of 18-year-olds who don't really know why they're here. And then he actually read my papers carefully, and to this day I remember him every time I write, because in the margins of one essay he marked out a word I was very proud of having used, utilize, and said, no, use. You don't need these 50-cent words to say what you want to say. Don't hide behind these extra syllables. Just last month, I got an email from a former student of mine who's now finishing law school at the University of Chicago, and he said, I just want to let you know that I use, not utilize, the things that you taught me when I was your student. So Richard Marius ended up being sort of everything I wanted to be. He was an advocate in the student newspaper against the war in Vietnam. He stood for students' rights to bring in the speakers they wanted, the comedian Dick Gregory. But he was writing these incredible books about Martin Luther and Thomas More. But he also wrote a novel about the places where we lived. And so I was just starstruck by this guy who could do all of these things and with such a spirit of love and excitement. So I took the second class with him. I finally worked my way up to getting an A from that. He wrote me a letter of recommendation to the same graduate school he'd gone to that I determined that I had to go to if I was going to be a successful human being. And then 20 years later, I gave a job talk at Harvard, and I met him at the faculty club for breakfast and reminded him of what he would have forgotten, that, or never knew, that he completely changed my life just by being himself. That was the lesson that I took from this, is that many times a teacher's greatest impact comes from who that person is, what they embody, rather than information they convey. So in the 40 years of teaching that I did, I try to remember every once in a while Richard Marius, that people are paying attention to the way you carry yourself, the passion you bring to this, the purpose you bring to it. And so Richard went on to head the expository writing program at Harvard University for a very long time. But I remember when he was 38 years old, probably an associate professor, now that I know what that actually means. And he paid attention to this 18-year-old kid who had kind of the same East Tennessee accent he did.